Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is Chad M back here with BetHubb.com. Today I'm going to be talking about Super Bowl proposition wagers. And I know that everybody wants to bet on the spread and the total in this game, but we cannot overlook the fact that there are plenty of additional opportunities to make money when it comes to this football game, because there's more than 300 proposition bets available at most sports books out there, including BetHubb.com, which you can check out at the link below, where we have our own special props up there as well. They're all fairly consistent in terms of yards for each player, receptions, longest catch, run, are they going to score a touchdown, who's going to win the MVP, blah, blah, blah. You can go on and on. The only tip that I give to everybody out there is try to have a little bit of a game plan in terms of the way you see things being played out that is codependent on your proposition wagers, because when you start to think in your mind how the game's going to play out, what kind of score you're expecting to see, and who are going to be the impact players, then some of these prop bets should sort of go hand in hand with that mindset. So what I've decided to do here is give you guys a couple of my bets and just a brief explanation as to why, and hopefully you guys can use it to your advantage in terms of agreeing with me, or maybe seeing an angle that you completely disagree with and finding a way to use that advice and wager against it. So let's first start off here with Joe Flacco, who I think will be able to throw the football on this 49er defense. I think that that's the number one vulnerability they have. I also think the fact that Baltimore will trail in this game is going to force him to throw the ball a lot more than maybe you would expect. His overall stats on the year aren't fantastic, but he has played a lot better in the postseason. If you can find over 235, 240 yards, I easily expect him to go over that number. He's done it every single playoff game this year. I don't see that changing. I also like him to go over 33.5 attempts, because I think that if they fall behind, he's going to be throwing the football a whole lot more than he usually would if they had a lead and they were nursing and handing the football off more. So I'm going to stick away from the overall completions that he has, because you never know. Maybe he can get those yards with some strikes downfield, which we'll get to with a certain player, and he can get over the yards without having to complete a certain amount of passes. Now, when it comes to the mindset with Baltimore, I do think they're going to have a bit of issues rushing the football because of how stout San Francisco's run defense is. So I like Ray Rice under 18.5 carries in this game. Throughout the year, he really hasn't had substantial numbers that would back that. He's about 50-50 in terms of whether or not he carries the ball 19 times in a game. However, since Pierce has come back and run the football, it's given him a second option, so it eases his load. And the fact that he won't be able to run the ball against the San Francisco defense, and if they're trailing in the game, which I expect he won't be able to as well, I'm not so confident on those yards, because he can still bust open a big play, which could get him over the 62.5 yards or whatever it's listed as, so I lean away from that. Now, in terms of Baltimore, with their ability to move the ball downfield, they do have one player that I absolutely love who has the ability to go deep, and that is none other than Torrey Smith. I think over 61.5 yards receiving, love that prop bet. He's done it about 50% of the time this year. But I think given the fact that the San Francisco secondary is being torched quite a bit here in the playoffs against Green Bay and against Atlanta in the dome here with Smith's speed to burn, I like him to go over this number. I see him hooking up with Flacco on a couple of big plays downfield, which also makes me believe that I like his longest reception to be over 27.5 yards. I expect him to hook up for at least one 30-yard play in this game. So those are some of the Baltimore prop bets that I like. Now we'll look at San Francisco here. I absolutely love Colin Kaepernick to have success in the air in this game. I'm shocked to see that you can still find somewhere between 218 and 225 yards of passing through the air for Kaepernick. He's done that in 7 of his 9 starts this season, and the only 2 times he didn't was against St. Louis and Miami, 2 games that didn't really mean much against conservative defensive teams. He's going to be able to throw the ball here. I don't think he's going to run quite as buck wild as he did against Green Bay. I think Atlanta sort of shown the, shall we say, blueprint in terms of how to defend the run. Harbaugh's a smart coach from Baltimore. They have 2 weeks to prepare for it. I'm not going to bet against Kaepernick running the football. I'll stay away from those props. But I don't think it's unreasonable to expect him to move the ball downfield, especially when I think that even if he has a couple of dump-off plays, they have the athletes in San Francisco to get a lot of yards after the catch and get up and over that total. So I absolutely love that. That's one of my bigger props right there. In terms of players on that team, I like Vernon Davis for his longest reception to be over 20.5 yards. when he first had Kaepernick come in, you heard him talk about how he wasn't in the game plan that much. He was more used to Alex Smith. Well, we've seen the beast, and you can see the beast in those arms, and Mr. Davis and those Pythons explode in the playoffs. 3 games in a row now, he's had over 20 yards for his longest reception. I expect him to still be in the game plan here. I don't see the older linebackers like Ray Lewis and Paul Kruger and not on these guys being able to contain him in the open field. He should be able to bust some tackles. I'm not that confident in terms of how many, say, receptions he'll get or how many overall yards he has in the game, but I think he'll be able to bust at least one play open for over 20.5 yards. And then also, I think the key player for San Francisco here, who I'm going to be loading up on, is none other than Frank Gore. This guy is an absolute monster. Since, what's-his-name went down, the other back that they have is pretty good, Kendall Hunter. It's forced him to increase his workload. I think that Harbaugh eased him into the rotation this year, knowing that he'd be the guy they need in the playoffs. That's why he didn't have as many carries earlier in the year. I love him to get over 78.5 yards rushing. I found that prop somewhere. Not take it at 81.5 yards. He's done that every single playoff game so far this year. I think the key weakness of Baltimore is that up the middle element of them and the lack of tackling. I look for a lot of yards after the times of point of contact, just in beast, keeping those legs going. I also like him to score touchdowns, something he's done in his last 3 games, and he's been able to do in how many games have they played? 18. He's done it in 11 of their 18 games, so it's something he does more than 50% of the time, so I don't mind laying a little bit of juice in the minus 130 range there. And I think due to the fact that so much attention will be on Kaepernick with the pistol and where is he going to go, there's going to be more handing off to Frank Gore. I think he's going to be key in this game, and I think there's a bit of value here on taking him at 7.5 to 1 odds to win the MVP in this game. I understand that more than half the time, or majority of the time, the MVP of the game does go to the quarterback. But, when you don't have 2 elite quarterbacks, in this game here, I think it provides more value in the other players being able to step up and win this award, especially when a team like San Francisco does rely so much on the run game. This reminds me a lot of TD, Terrell Davis, when Denver won their Super Bowls, winning some MVPs back then. So I look for Frank Gore to have an absolutely monster game. And those are the key, proposition wagers that I have. Just a few other ones that are based on the team as well. Field goal wise, I like Baltimore to get over a field goal and a half in this game. Justin Tucker's been a beast all year. He's shown the ability to knock down the long field goal. It's indoors. There shouldn't be a weather issue. I think that Baltimore will be able to move the football quite a bit, but could stall on some drives against the San Francisco stout 49ers defense that does rise to the occasion in the red zone. And I also do believe that the longest field goal made in the game will be over 44.5 yards because Tucker's shown the ability to make the long field goal. And both teams will be able to move the ball but could stall a little bit. I know Akers has been a little bit shaky, but you know what? Sometimes when you doubt a kicker this much, sometimes he rises to the occasion the following week after a brutal game, which is what we saw there. So I expect to see one field goal over 44.5 yards. So those are some of my tips for proposition wagers here for the Super Bowl. I'll actually put out a full list of them on the blog as well so you guys can see them. And of course, I'll have them out on BetHubb.com so you guys have an opportunity to bet me against some of these wagers here. Check it out. Proposition wagers, Super Bowl, San Francisco, Baltimore. It's going down this Sunday. BetHubb.com. Chatham signing out for the 2012-13 NFL season.